Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Water Wednesday. Those of you who've watched earlier episodes may be wondering where Kathy is. Well, she's fine, just taking some well-deserved time off, and she invited me to host for this month while she's away. My name is Lawrence Campling, and I'm an information officer here at DWR. Today, we're going to meet Akila Moses, who is also an information officer and supervisor in the Public Affairs Office at DWR. Akila's going to be telling us about how she went from being a student assistant to her current position and what being an information officer is all about. Now, unlike Akila, I became an information officer rather late in my career. I've only been with DWR just over a year, and Akila is actually my supervisor. So if I don't do a good job in this interview, I'm sure I'll be hearing about it in our weekly one-on-one meeting next week. But first, a bit of background. The mission of the California Department of Water Resources is to sustainably manage the water resources of California in cooperation with other agencies to benefit the state's people and protect, restore, and enhance the natural and human environments. We started Water Wednesdays last year in response to the COVID-19 stay-at-home situation. Each Wednesday, we're joined by a DWR scientist or subject matter expert to learn about California's water, our aquatic ecosystems, and more. We've had programs on delta ecology, salmon, flood risk, and how we get water during our hot, dry summers. This month, we're returning to the topic of career opportunities in the water resources field, specifically careers that help protect human and environmental health. And by the way, all our past Water Wednesday presentations are available on our YouTube channel. But before I turn things over to Akila, I'll just go over a few logistics for those joining us on Zoom. Please keep your microphones muted so that we don't get interrupted by any distracting noises. Please also keep your cameras turned off. And if you have questions for Akila, please submit them in the chat function, which you can find via the word bubble icon at the bottom of your screen. You can also activate the closed captions option if you like by clicking on the captions icon. Okay, so now I'll turn things over to Akila. Akila, take it away.
All right, thank you, Lawrence. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. All righty. Well, hello, everyone. I'm excited to join you all during this week's Water Wednesday. My name is Akila Moses, and I am the Media and Public Information Supervisor here at the Department of Water Resources Public Affairs Office. And I'm excited to talk to you all a little bit today about my experience, my DWR journey, and how I arrived to the position of an information officer. And so I'll go ahead and explain a little bit about what an information officer is and what we do. So to start, I want to give just a quick summary about my education and my career milestones. So in 2014, I enrolled at Sacramento State University, and at the same time had the fortunate opportunity to serve as a student assistant at DWR. And so 4 years after that, I graduated from Sacramento State and was promoted to an Information Officer 1. And then just 2 years after that, in 2020, I was promoted to an Information Officer 2. And so I want to take a quick step back and talk a little bit about myself. To start, when I was in high school and I thought about what are the things that I enjoy most? What do I want to do in terms of a long-term career? What are the 4 things that are the most important to me? And so when I thought about that, 4 things came to mind, and that was that I really enjoyed writing and research. I enjoyed doing that, whether it was for school or just as a favorite pastime. The second is that I really enjoyed learning, especially learning about things that maybe you didn't hear about on the day-to-day basis. And so I just enjoyed really just continuing to educate myself and learn about new things. And then the third is that I enjoyed working with people and collaborating, especially if it was like working on a team. So whether that was for school or maybe sports or something like that. And then also I enjoyed doing something that allowed me to be creative, that allowed me to think outside of the box and do something that was fun and interesting. And so when I thought about all of those 4 things, I started thinking about, well, what are some career fields that I can get involved in or start researching that allow me to do all 4 of those things. And so some ideas that came to mind were, do I want to be a journalist? Do I want to write stories that get read locally or throughout the world, really? That includes a lot of research and writing and sometimes collaboration. Did I want to be an author and write books? Or did I want to be a magazine editor where I write and research and do a lot of creative things to make things pop? On top of that, I also thought, do I want to be a reporter? Do I want to be on TV sharing stories? And so while I thought about all of these different ideas, I couldn't quite figure out whether they were right for me or, if there was one or the other that I really wanted to focus on. But what I did notice is that there was a common theme, and that theme was it involved telling a story and it involved communicating with people. And so with that, when I sat down and decided what degree I wanted to pursue at Sacramento State, I selected communication studies. And so I want to pose a question to you all. Doesn't everyone know how to communicate? This was a question that I got often when I told people what area of study I wanted to pursue at Sacramento State. And so how I would answer that question is, well, yes, and it depends. And the reason I say that is because there are many different forms of communication. There's written, verbal, visual, but there are also different specialties or practices of communication, such as public relations, mass media, organizational, among many other that aren't on this screen. And so that also is important to think about is, well, what are you trying to communicate? Who are you trying to communicate to, and how do you plan to do that? And so what was great was during my time at Sacramento State, I was able to take a deep dive into all of these different areas of communication to get a better understanding of what I enjoyed most. And so during my time at Sacramento State, I pursued a degree in communication studies, as well as American Sign Language and Deaf Studies, which when you really think about it, is also another form of communication. And so during that time, I also was fortunate to serve as a student assistant with the Department of Water Resources, specifically in the Public Affairs Office. And so what was great is I was able to take what I was learning in school to apply to the hands-on work that I was doing at DWR, and vice versa. I was able to take the hands-on work that I was doing at DWR to take back to my classroom. And so that was great because I was able to kind of work in tandem with both of those things. And so, well, what did life look like as a student assistant? And so what was great is one of the first assignments that I did as a student assistant was to assist with the DWR magazine. And so that goes back to my goal of, do I want to be a magazine editor? And so I was able to write a lot of interesting stories about issues of water in California. And I was able to interview a lot of our experts throughout the department as well. Something else I was able to do was practice writing news releases, where we talk a lot about the different issues in California and projects or initiatives that our department was taking to address those issues. And so we got to share those with both the public as well as the media and reporters, for example. Something else that I was able to do was attend public events, specifically the California State Fair, where we were able to talk about the importance of water conservation and how to develop your own water efficient landscape at home. And then on top of that, I was able to dabble a little bit into how to manage social media channels, specifically those that help share information, as well as how to update public websites that also do the same thing, which is sharing information. And so, well, what did life look like after college? So in 2018, I graduated with a bachelor's in both communication studies and American Sign Language, Deaf Studies. And what was great is I was able to take all of my experience that I gained as a student assistant and in school and apply for an Information Officer 1 position. And so I got to do a lot of the same things that I did as a student, but on a higher level. And I was able to actually transition into the editor of the DWR magazine, where I did a lot of editing and writing as well. But I also was more involved in the creation and development process of that publication. So that was really exciting for me as well. And then in 2020, I was promoted to an Information Officer 2, which is the current position that I hold as the Media and Public Information Supervisor. And so I still do a lot of the same work, except now I get to supervise an amazing team of Information Officer 1s. And so let's take a step back. What is an information officer? You know, there's the word officer in that title. Does that mean we have a badge? While we don't have a badge, the work that we do is still very important. And so in general, an information officer basically serves to help provide information to Californians. Now, under the scope of DWR specifically, you know, our department's mission is to sustainably manage California's water resources, specifically, you know, to protect, restore, and enhance natural and human environments. And so a big emphasis on human environmental health. And so the work of an information officer is to both inform and educate Californians about the importance of water in California and the different water issues in California, but also there's a safety component there as well. And I'll talk about that in the next few examples. So specifically, we respond to emergencies and safety concerns. For example, the last declared drought emergency occurred between 2012 to 2016. And so when droughts occur for that long, they have certain impacts. For example, there's a potential for an increase in wildfires. There are water shortages. Maybe there are impacts to ecosystems. And so as information officers, our job is to talk about and inform people about the impacts from drought. But also ways that we can mitigate drought as a state, such as water conservation. Another topic that we address sometimes are also algal blooms. And so that is another part of a natural part of California's ecosystem, where it occurs when algae blooms or grows rapidly under warm conditions and certain water conditions and builds a lot of nutrients that can sometimes be harmful and pose a safety risk. And so the work of an information officer is to provide information about, you know, what are algal blooms? How do you spot them? What are the risks associated with them? What to do if you come in contact or see an algal bloom in your area? And so an example of what that looks like is this picture here. And so it's important because we provide information to people so that they know what to do if they see something like this. Another emergency or safety concern that we also address are flooding. The risk of flooding exists in California every year, especially following wildfires, especially if there's, you know, heavy rain pour in areas where there have been wildfires, and that can create additional flooding risks because you get what are called debris flows or landslides that can also be dangerous. And so the work of an information officer is to essentially not only help provide information about flood preparedness, so learning where your flood risks, what your flood risks are, what supplies to keep at home to help you shelter in place if you are in a flooded area, how to evacuate. And what's great is that we also work with state and federal and local partners to help provide that information as well. And then in the event of a flooding event, we also help provide information about where they're occurring in a certain area and what to do. So it's really important because we provide that information so people can respond accordingly. And so we don't just respond to emergencies, we also, again, provide information about the different issues related to water in California. And so there are a few ways that we do that. One way is through digital articles, for example, which are articles that we post on our public website that talk about, you know, water issues or things that the department is doing related to water. We also produce news releases, which are just essentially packaged information about a certain initiative or project or major milestone that can then get shared with the public as well as reporters or news media that then can help us also share that information more broadly, maybe on TV or radio. And then something else that we also participate in our press conferences where an information officer or maybe an expert within the department speak more specifically about certain initiatives or projects or milestones. Something else that we also do are publications and print materials such as the DWR magazine or fact sheets, for example. Now, another way that we also share information are through social media, which I think a lot of younger folks can relate to because that's one way that people are getting their information nowadays, through Twitter or Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. So that's one way that we also share information. And then I don't know about all of you, but I'm also a big visual person. I like to see what I'm talking about or learning about. And so we also get to work with some really great photographers and video experts to go out and actually capture what we're talking about it. So that way you can take the information that you're reading about and see it in front of you. And so to kind of wrap things up, I get asked, what does the day-to-day look like for an information officer? And so really that every day can be different. I think that's actually very exciting because you never know what you're going to work on the next day. And it can be very different from day to day. What's also great is that there's a ton of collaboration, whether it's with other information officers or maybe photographers or videographers or even experts within the department. And that goes hand in hand with it being insightful and educational because we have experts that we work with who are scientists and engineers who educate us really sometimes about the different issues related to water and how we can address them. While we as information officers share information, we may not be experts. And so there's a lot of collaboration and work that we do with those experts. And then lastly, I would say the work that we do is also very important, not just because the topic of water in California is so important, but also because the work that we do can also save lives based off of the information that we're providing. And so really we're doing something that sometimes can be bigger than ourselves. And so it's because of all of these 4 different things that I just find being an information officer so exciting and interesting that I always enjoy talking about this. And so if you have any questions, I'm excited to answer them.
Fantastic, great. Thanks, Akila. Very, very interesting. I think what interests me about your story most of all is that when you were younger and you loved to read and write, and you couldn't have predicted that you'd sort of end up where you were. And I think it's a good example of how communication pretty much spans everything. And how fortunate for you that you actually ended up in a field that is so important to California, where there are stories to tell everywhere, every day.
Right, exactly.
And so you can never really predict that how your passion, where your passion is going to lead you. And I had a couple of questions come in that are relevant to that. Somebody asks, if you hadn't been a student assistant at DWR, do you think you would have ever ended up here?
I would say I always reflect on that because I think by being involved as a student assistant, that really opened my eyes to the other possibilities that were out there. And so I think that's a really big step that you need to take when you're trying to really get an understanding of where you want to go in your career. Is yes, you can learn a lot of things in class and do a ton of research, but until you've actually been involved in the work, how else are you going to know if that's something that you want to enjoy or if that's something that you want to do for the entirety of your career? And so to a certain degree, I don't know. I don't think that without having the opportunity to take both what I learned in school and what I learned at DWR as a student, I don't know if I would have arrived to this position, but nonetheless, I'm happy that I did.
And do you think, have you always been interested in science and environmental issues, or is that something that happened that you discovered, just when you came to DWR?
I would say that it happened after I came to DWR. I mean, the topic of water in general, like I know water comes out of my faucet before I became a student assistant even. And so that was the limit to my knowledge about water. And so it wasn't until I came on as a student for DWR that I realized like water, especially in California, is so much more complex and has many different aspects to it. And so it's because of that I think that I've actually become more interested in the topic of water and environmental health and those types of things. And so and for me, it's been an exciting topic to learn.
Tell us about some of the current topics that you're working on. Somebody has inquired about what are you working on? What are you sharing with the public this week?
All right. Well, one that comes to mind are really a lot of interest in our environmental restoration efforts. So, for example, a lot of projects close to the Delta that involved restoring certain habitats for, what's the word I'm looking for certain species. So not only restoring it for the environment, but also for species that are local to California. And so that's been very interesting because there are a lot of environmental benefits, but there are also maybe some recreation or human benefits that are involved in those as well. And so just getting the opportunity to talk about and write about those topics has been interesting as well.
Do you get to go out in the field much and see these locations that DWR is working with?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, currently there aren't as many opportunities, but what's great is that there are opportunities as an information officer to get out of the office. For example, we try to capture photos and videos of the projects and topics that we talk about. And so, for example, sometimes we'll go out into the Delta or the environments that we're talking about and interview experts to help us capture stories through video about what we're doing. And so that's been exciting as well. And so while a lot of the times, yes, you're in an office working and typing and writing out stories or figuring out interesting ways to tell the story of water in California, but you also get to get out in the environment as well.
Somebody is asking, what are those birds that we see flying over your head there?
That's a very good question. This was actually taken near downtown Sacramento, and so I think they're actually geese. So that's a good question.
Yeah, I think they're Canada geese, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Common geese. There's a lot of them around. And I was wondering, I imagine that, well, one thing I've discovered since working at
Mm-hmm.
DWR as an information officer is there's a lot of research involved. And if you like to do research, if you like, plowing through Wikipedia articles and tracking down articles and scientific reports and that kind of thing, it's great. Is that a part of your job that you enjoy?
Absolutely. Again, like that goes back to, one of the four things that I thought were important for me to continue to do, no matter what job I went into, was continuing to write and, expand my knowledge and education about certain things. And so research is a big part of it. Again, as information officers, we have a lot of knowledge about water, but we don't know everything. And so that involves doing a lot of research, whether that is, reading through past articles or reading through additional information that we have available to us at DWR, or even interviewing some of our experts here at DWR as well. And so I enjoy it personally because I feel the more I know, the better I can communicate things out to people.
Mm. Somebody asks, do you have to major in communications to be an information officer, or can you get here with other degrees? I could answer that myself because my story is very different. But well, what's your insight into that, Akila?
I would say that I wouldn't allow, a specific major to limit your possibilities. And so communications, of course, is a really good avenue because it allows you to get some insight into maybe other areas that you might want to be involved in when it comes to communications. But no, you can major in English or certain other areas that kind of capitalize on your writing skills or your ability to, convey information or storytelling. And so while communications is great, it's not the only major that you have to limit yourself to if you want to get involved in the role of an information officer.
I think we're getting close to time, but I think we have time for a couple more questions. A related question somebody's asking is, for you, what part of your education has been the most valuable in your job as an information officer, do you think?
That's a good question. I would say that it's a little bit, I kind of want to say two things, and one of which is the writing aspect of it, because in order to share information, you have to do it clearly and cohesively. And so I would say that writing is a big one for me. But also another form of my education was, writing is just one way to tell a story. And so I would say that, I learned through Sac State is, okay, what are some creative ways to do that? You could do, an article, you could do a video, you could do a photo essay. And so not everyone just wants to read an article. And so I would say those are the two big ones for me when it came to excelling in this career field.
Mm-hmm. Tell us just briefly, if you can. One thing I get asked quite a lot is what happens, because we hear about getting activated during an emergency. You talked a little bit about this in your presentation of how important communication becomes during those situations. Have you had some memorable experiences yet of that?
A little bit, yes. I have been involved, for example, in getting activated to respond to flooding events and more recently wildfire events. So even though our department is very involved in water, of course, we also get sometimes activated to help support other offices or departments. Specifically for wildfires, it was CAL FIRE and the Office of Emergency Services here in California. And so helping in terms of responding to wildfires, getting information out to people that need it, so that they know how to respond, where to go, and their safety risks. And so I would say flood and wildfires are the most recent that I've personally been activated to respond to emergencies.
Mhm. So I think just one more question. If anybody out there, of course, information officers exist in all the different agencies and departments
Mhm.
of government, both state and local government. Do you have any advice for somebody who's interested in pursuing this as a career option?
Yeah, definitely. I would say if you have any, any interest in going into this career field, see if there are opportunities out there, even outside of necessarily like we have student assistant positions that you can pursue. But also, ask people who are involved in this type of field. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to ask about their insight and experience. See if there are opportunities even through your school, whether if you're in high school or maybe going into college soon. There are definitely opportunities where I would say, research and see what opportunities are out there where you can get that hands-on experience.
Well, thanks, Akila, for joining us today and telling us the story of your career so far. I'm sure you've got a lot of very interesting years ahead of you. So again, thanks very much.
Thank you, Lawrence.
And thanks to all of you for joining us online. Now, if you're interested in learning more about DWR, please visit our homepage, water.ca.gov. If you're a teacher or parent with kids at home, we have links to numerous kid and teenager appropriate water education resources on our website at water.ca.gov/education. And from there, you can also access our water education materials order page. All materials are free to residents of California. To stay abreast of what DWI is doing and to find out about upcoming Water Wednesday presentations, please follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And we'll be back next week with junior engineer Amber Sanchez to talk about her work monitoring the quality of California's groundwater. We hope you can join us then. And until then, have a great week, stay safe, and thanks for watching.